He was once the most beloved man in Hollywood, a global icon with charm, power, and a spotless image. But in just a few seconds on the world's biggest stage, everything fell apart. One shocking slap at the Oscars turned Will Smith's legacy into a public battleground of outrage, regret, and redemption. What followed wasn't just damage control. It was a high-stakes attempt to rebuild a shattered reputation in front of millions. But was it real growth, or just another carefully scripted performance? Will Smith once embodied charisma, charm, and cultural influence. He was Hollywood's golden boy, a beloved figure with enormous success in blockbuster films, music, and public image. Then in late March 2022, everything changed. On stage at the Oscars, he stormed across the stage and slapped Chris Rock after a joke about his wife's alopecia. That moment, watched by millions, shattered his brand instantly. It was live and irreversible, and though he won Best Actor later that night, the applause felt hollow. In the aftermath, he issued an apology, first in his acceptance speech, but without naming Rock, then the next day in writing, and months later in a polished video too orchestrated to register as genuine to many critics. His initial apology was late and widely deemed insufficient. Public relations experts argued he should have offered a direct apology sooner. The acceptance speech came across as more defensive than remorseful, and his behavior at an after-party drew further criticism. All of it compounded the crisis. The Academy responded swiftly, launching a formal review and eventually issuing a 10-year ban from attending their events, effectively sidelining him from their ecosystem for a decade. Some projects he was attached to were paused or cancelled. Major studios quietly shelved sequels like Bad Boys 4 and series such as Pole to Pole, reflecting the industry's fear of damage from his tarnished reputation. Within days, audience sentiment had shifted dramatically. Polls showed a majority of Americans now held a negative view of him, and more than 60% disapproved of his actions. After that initial shock, his team responded with strategic silence. He retreated from the public eye for months. That silence, unusual in celebrity culture, allowed the outrage to cool and gave time for reflection, aided by the fact that media attention drifted toward other sensational stories like Elon Musk's Twitter saga. Crisis and management experts saw this as smart restraint, letting time soothe raw reactions while avoiding overexposure or forced messaging. When he resurfaced, it was carefully choreographed. His return came not with media blitz, but via nostalgic touches in music. His comeback album dropped more than 20 years after his last release, tapping into the Will Smith of the 90s, but with a reflective and mature tone. Searches for his music spiked dramatically after that teaser campaign, showing the power of nostalgia melded with a reimagined persona. He also avoided excessive interviews or tearful confessions. He appeared on select platforms where he could shape the narrative on his terms. Experts note he avoided live back-and-forth interviews, knowing they risked appearing rehearsed or defensive. Then he engaged younger audiences through social media. The viral TikTok video with KSI, where Smith mimics KSI's voice while signing his book, and KSI retorts, "Bro, can you shut up?" became a light-hearted moment fans enjoyed. His appearances in influencer content, including Try Not to Laugh challenges, felt like calculated efforts to integrate with Gen Z culture. But reactions were mixed. Some saw it as cringy or desperate, others as playful charm. His impromptu performance in London, passing crowds and singing 90s hits, was meant to evoke comfort and nostalgia. Yet many observers noticed the crowd's energy lagged, the stunt felt forced. What was supposed to feel spontaneous felt staged, and critics argued that rather than closeness, it generated awkward distance. Meanwhile, his interviews, like a vulnerable conversation on financial literacy and emotional health, were framed as revealing and introspective. But audiences said the tone felt too polished, like pre-rehearsed messaging rather than authentic confession, and comment sections were quick to call it hollow or PR crafted. This full arc illustrates something larger than Will Smith himself. His saga highlights how celebrity redemption still follows a predictable playbook in Hollywood. Acknowledge, pause, re-emerge carefully, engage with new demographics. Yet it also reveals the limitations of that model when audiences smell calculation. He followed classic steps: apologize, retreat, return with nostalgia and vulnerability. But the payoff was muted because his execution lacked spontaneity. His journey underscores a cultural double standard. When men fail publicly, they often find space to redeem. Experts contrast his recovery arc to women in scandal fallacies allowed to define them forever, while he is treated as flawed but forgivable. Still, Hollywood insiders say he retains residual goodwill and his brand recognition and humor remain assets. Some believe time and the right role could fully restore him. It is not over. As projects previously paused resume, and as new work rolls out, the public will weigh his return against his old mistakes. Real redemption demands more than strategic appearances. It will require proving growth through action, substance, and consistency. This journey from celebrated star to scandal to comeback candidate is a modern case study in fame's fragility, how mistakes echo in the digital age, and what happens when public persona and personal misstep collide. The hardest part to grasp is how someone so universally loved could fall so fast, and how quickly the world turned cold. Watching Will Smith navigate the aftermath felt surreal, like witnessing a real-life movie unfold where the hero doesn't know if he's still the good guy. I grew up seeing him as larger than life, funny, charismatic, untouchable. But in that one moment, all of that cracked, and it made me question what we really expect from our icons. Do we demand perfection, or are we just waiting for them to mess up so we can tear them down? What hit me the most wasn't the slap itself, it was everything that came after. The silence, the carefully curated returns, the calculated charm. There were moments that felt genuine, but just as many that felt rehearsed. And maybe that's the part that stings. Because deep down, I want to believe he's growing. I want to believe there's a real human behind the PR machine who's hurting, learning, trying. But the line between sincerity and strategy feels so thin now. Whether he finds true redemption or just rebuilds a shiny version of his image, I don't know. But I do know that this story is still unfolding, and I'm still watching.